In today's video, I'm going to take you on a fly fishing adventure that I've been dreaming about for over 20 years, and I'm finally doing it today. And that is, we're going to try to catch one of the rarest species of native trout here in Oregon. It's called the Westslope Cutthroat Trout. It's found in other states, but here in Oregon, it's only found in a few tiny creeks in the John Day River, the most popular being Strawberry Creek. So I traveled over 5 hours to come here and try to catch a tiny little fish. Now, one thing that re-sparked my interest in catching native species of trout was something called the Western Native Trout Initiative Challenge. It's a challenge where you go to different states and try to catch native species of trout. Now, before, I haven't had a reason to come to this part of Oregon, but it's beautiful. I'm so glad I came here, and we're gonna see if we can catch a Westslope cutthroat. The first thing I like to do when fly fishing a new river is to go in the creek with my net and see what kind of insects are in the water that the fish might be feeding on. So it looks like we got a good sample of the aquatic insects that are living at the bottom of the stream. That way we can match the flies we're using to what the trout are naturally feeding on. Well, in this creek there are quite a few caddisflies and stoneflies. They're brown in color. I have quite a few patterns that should match that. Also, I have a very good stonefly pattern. Let's tie up our flies and start fishing. Well, here's an update. This trip really isn't going to plan. I spent over 5 hours driving here. I just want to catch one Westslope cutthroat on Strawberry Creek. I spent the last 2 hours down lower in the creek, going up and down looking for any place to fish. I haven't seen a single trout. Also, it's so brushy and rocky. I either snag my fly and lose it, or I can't cast. And then I made a huge mistake. I was walking down the trail and I caught my Tenkara rod on a limb and snapped it. I thought my trip was over, but then I remembered I have duct tape in the truck. So I'm going to adapt. I don't want to waste this trip, so I'm going to tape up my Tenkara rod with duct tape. I went higher in the river and it looks a little better. So hopefully we can catch one trout. Let's tape up our rod, tie up a fly, and see if we can catch one. Okay, let's see if we can MacGyver my fishing rod. It's not going to be pretty, but the trout in here aren't very big, so it should work. Okay, let's try to catch a trout. I got my Westslope cutthroat. Here's a fish I traveled all this way to catch. It's not a very big fish, but I'm really excited. A Westslope cutthroat from Oregon. In Oregon, it's only found in a few small creeks, and I was able to finally catch one. It's called a cutthroat because of the orange marks right there on the throat. It's very unique in its markings. It has a spotted tail, but the body's pretty bland, only a few par marks and a slight red line down the center. It's such a beautiful native fish, and I'm gonna let it go. Well, thank you so much for coming on this fishing adventure with me. This is a trip I've been wanting to do for over 2 decades, and that is catch a very rare species of fish here in Oregon, a Westslope cutthroat. They're pretty much only found in Strawberry Creek and one other creek in the John Day, and I finally came out here. This trip was filled with highs and lows. The lows being I thought fishing would be much easier. I spent all morning getting snagged on rocks, and I broke my rod on the bushes. But the high being I duct taped it back together, found a new spot, and started catching fish. They're such a beautiful native fish, and I really enjoyed coming out here. I love going on fishing adventures. There's so many different trout species I want to catch, both in this state and other states. So I'm going to post videos and take you along. Also, if you haven't heard of the Western Native Trout Initiative Challenge, it has a list of different trout. I've been checking them off. It's so much fun. So if you're interested in fishing, check that out. If you haven't subscribed, please consider clicking that button and stay tuned for more outdoor adventures. Thanks for watching.